Hi everyone, welcome to Everyday. Today, we are going to be playing Windlands. Or is it Windlands? I don't actually know the right way to say this, but I've been waiting to play this game for a long time. I've actually already played it all the way through on my own time, not on camera. And so I have a good idea of how to play it. I'm going to be playing it on the Oculus Rift CV1. It's also available for the HTC Vive, where it's a very different experience. This series is just going to be on the Rift, but as I go through, I'll compare and contrast a little bit with the Vive experience, which is a very different kind of game. So I'm starting out here at the main menu, and it immediately throws you into this little room, and this room is actually the starting room of the game, where you're going to start the game in a moment. And I'm going to go ahead and start the game so you get a feeling for it. Then I'm going to go back and go through a few of the options. A little bit about this game. So I played early demos of this game on my DK2, and yeah, I think it was just on my DK2. I don't think it was available in DK1 days. And it was created by SciTech Games, which is kind of a combination of multiple VR demo developers who got together and formed a little development studio. So it was originally, I believe, a Finnish game, and it was created by Ilya Kivikangas and Simo Sainio. And they were Simo Sainio did the music, Ilya did the programming, and they were just the main two people working on it. And then a whole bunch of additional people joined onto this project to really bring it to fruition. Nick Pittum, you may know as Red Panda, worked on a lot of the Studio Ghibli demos, worked on Crystal Rift, which is now also a SciTech Games game. And all of these other people, when we get to the credits, we'll go over their specific roles, but these people this project has massively expanded since its original conception. And I think it's really turned into a complete game. Notice it uses the Oculus audio pack and spatialization, so there's 3D audio in this game, so you can hear where sounds are coming from, and it uses the Oculus audio pack to do that. So this is a good demo if you want to experience that audio technology. And these are the Indiegogo backers that paid enough money to get their name listed on the credits. So thanks to those people who helped to get this game off the ground. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start a game. So this is the earlier game that I played all the way through, got all 9 crystals. I'm not going to get all the tablets because some of them are really hard to get. Most of them, honestly, are really hard to get. But I am going to get all 9 crystals. I'm going to do 1 episode per crystal because that seems like the natural division. And let's go ahead and jump into the game. So I'm going to be playing this on my Xbox One controller. I'm actually playing the Rift version because I prefer the controls of the Xbox One controller to the Vive touchpad, because the analog stick is a lot more comfortable for me moving around, especially during the really tricky jumping segments. So here's a nice tree. I can't do much with this tree right now. I can jump on it. Woo! And I step outside, and immediately, behold. Hello, giant robot. And you can see the birds flying up around the giant robot, giving you that sense of scale. This reminds me a lot of Oculus, which was a Gear VR demo that I believe Nick Pittum also worked on, where you had this giant that was just walking over you, and they gave this really effective sense of scale. Let's see if I can jump up there. No, I'm falling. But yeah, you can see how huge this thing is. When I hit the ground, I will automatically teleport back to my last spawn location, which is currently at the beginning of the game. It doesn't rewind you in time like a save game, it just teleports you back. So you can see the robot's still right where it was. And I can hit Y, and I can go back here again. I really like the teleport animation in this game. You teleport in this little cloud of smoke that temporarily obscures your vision. It's a very, very fast teleport, which is important because you're going to be doing these things over and over and over again. Currently I have the default comfort turning on, but I don't think this is the best for YouTube videos. So I'm actually gonna, comfort turning just means that when I turn my analog stick, it turns me in increments of like 30 degrees. And that's more comfortable for a lot of people. but I think it makes it a bit harder to follow what's going on your screen. So I am just going to... Where are my options? There we go. Just hit the start button. I'm going to drop into options. Virtual reality. Comfort turning. And that's where you turn it off. Gonna go back to the game. And now I can turn smoothly. And I think that's just a bit easier to follow, since you can follow the smooth motion and follow what I'm doing. So I'm just jumping from platform to platform. You jump very high and you have a lot of momentum. This is a checkpoint. It saves my progress. The checkpoints are very cool looking. There's a lot of very geometric inspired stuff in this game. A lot of very blocky shapes. In the original demo, I think you could actually fall down to the desert floor and just walk around down there. But in this one, you automatically teleport if you go down there. Oh, I can see the shadows of the birds against the sun. That is so cool. This game technically can be played without a VR headset, but it's just so much cooler in VR. So this is the tutorial segment where they force you to learn how to wall jump, which is not too bad. I just jump across here, jump, jump. Each time I hit the wall, I hit the A button, and I jump off it. The wall jumping, again, like all the mechanics in this game, are very carefully tuned to give this sense of being able to very quickly and easily move across space in a very kind of agile and athletic way. And now that we have perfected jumping, we get our hands on our grappling hooks. There they are. So the grappling hooks, they work a little differently in the Rift and the Vive version. In the Rift version, you look at something, the cursor turns white if you can grapple it. And you use the two shoulder buttons to shoot your grappling hook at it. The grappling hook always shoots in a straight line, and it always pulls you toward the thing that you grapple, and then you let go to stop pulling toward it. This is just the default controls. There are also advanced grappling controls that I'm going to tell you about later. But for now, I believe the simple grappling controls are definitely, you can play through the whole game with them. You don't need anything more advanced. So this is just a little climbing thing that's very easy to do. It's one of the first things you learn. You grab onto the foliage with both hooks, and then you're kind of hanging at the side of the foliage. Then you jump, and then you grapple again, then you jump, grapple again, jump, grapple again, jump, grapple again, and then you can get on top. So it's just kind of edging your way over the edge. And it's pretty slow, but it's pretty effective in case you're ever in a sticky place. Of course, it's better if you can try and maintain velocity and move very quickly, because then you get better times. Anyway, I'm trying to head for that red light over there. You can always identify your goals in this game, usually because they're the highest place in the level, and also because they're usually identified by some kind of cool glowing light. Alright. Checkpoint! Okay, where to next? Let's try over here. So if you like put one grappling hook on one surface and one on another one, you kind of hang between them like this, which can be useful sometimes. Usually I either just grab one, if I want to swing from tree to tree, I'll like swing with one grappling hook, then the other, kind of Spider-Man style. This game, incidentally, reminds me of nothing so much as being Spider-Man, swinging from building to building, except that we are in a mysterious desert land instead of a city. So you can see now I'm doing the thing where I swing from tree to tree. Whoa! That was close. I'll probably do some bonus episodes for the time trials. There are, I believe, 2 time trial areas in this game, and they are quite interesting. Okay, Now for some swinging. And there we go. So this game is really effective at giving you a sense of flight, a sense of speed, like you're really flying through the air, like you're really like navigating this incredibly treacherous terrain. Behold. So we have made it out of the introductory area. We have not quite gotten our hands on the first crystal yet. I believe if I hit start here and view my statistics, it will show you that I have 0 of 9 crystals. And I believe my crystal is waiting for me right up here. This is the easiest crystal to get. You pretty much just complete the tutorial and you get it automatically. Behold! They've got this geometric thing going on. Kind of like a 3D Triforce. Reminds me of Sierpinski's triangle, the fractal. There we go. It's very cool to see it in stereoscopy. It's going to go over there and plug into this machine. And that's going to extend the bridge so that I can make my way over to a new level where I will be able to collect more crystals. So that's what I'm going to do in the next episode, but before we close out this one, I want to just visit a little bit more of the options screen to talk about what other options you can set in this game. So, first the virtual reality controls, since I'm playing this in virtual reality. Comfort turning I already explained. Standing and seated mode, this is more relevant for the HTC Vive version. You can play it either sitting down or standing up. And the comfort cage I'll explain this. So by default, you just have unobstructed vision. If I set it to solid cage, and then I go back in the game, you will see I now have this cage around me wherever I go. And this might seem annoying, but for some people who get VR sickness very easily, having this cage around them gives them a reference point and makes them feel like their body it makes their body feel more comfortable because they have this point of reference filling their field of view. Now, because this particular cage is very, very disruptive and obvious, they also have a few other cages that are a bit less disruptive, but they might not offer as much comfort as the solid cage. The transparent cage is similar to the solid cage, except it's translucent, so you can see through it. And finally, the orb is a much more subtle thing. So this is not a cage at all. This is kind of it's transparent in front of you, and it gets more solid to the side where you're not looking. If you look out of the corner of your eye, you can kind of see it looks a bit more solid there. So this is more like you're kind of wearing a helmet. And you've got like a solid region to the side of your helmet. And it's more transparent in front. So this one is the least disruptive, but it may not offer as much protection against simulator sickness as the other ones. So that's all the VR options. What other options are in here? Controls. These are interesting. So you could change your gamepad layout. This is just changing what controls are associated with which things. No big deal. You can play with the keyboard. I don't play with the keyboard. I don't recommend it. I recommend you play with your Xbox One controller, which you have if it came with your Rift. Or your Vive trackpad if you're playing this on the Vive. And these controls, vertical and horizontal sensitivity, only apply when you're playing on the screen. This game is also kind of fine-tuned for monitor-based play. Likewise, vertical inverted, horizontal inverted. This is all just for on the monitor. Disable turning is actually a really interesting one. That's actually useful in VR. So if I disable turning, then I apply. My right stick no longer does anything. I cannot turn my view left or right using my stick. The only way I can turn my view left or right now is to spin around in my chair to face the way that I want to go. And this can be a very comfortable way to play spinning around in your chair, because yaw rotation is uncomfortable for a lot of people, even using comfort mode. Especially if you're doing standing VR, it can be quite comfortable to just turn your body instead of turning your character in the game with your analog stick. So this is definitely an interesting one to try. So I could jump over to this tree, and then I want to go back. So I just turn around like this, and then I go back. So this completely avoids yaw turning, which can make the game more comfortable for some people. But you do have to have the space to turn around. It helps a lot to have a rotating chair, or to be doing it standing. Okay, I'm gonna turn that back like it was. Disable strafing. So if you disable strafing, I can no longer move the left stick left and right to strafe. I like having strafing available because certain jumping puzzles are easier to do with it. But again, some people might find it uncomfortable. So now I have strafing, so I can do this again. Let me turn off this comfort orb so that you guys get the most unobstructed view of the action. You can also turn off this, see this crosshair that's always showing what I'm pointing at, showing what I can connect my grappling hooks to. You can turn that off. You can go into game, turn off show crosshair, and there we go. And now I have this completely unobstructed view of the game. There's nothing else, no UI at all in my field of vision. I don't recommend this for a first-time player because you might have uncertainty about what you can connect your grappling hooks to. It's pretty much just going to be trees. There's nothing else you can really connect your grappling hook to other than trees. But you do also have to aim it very carefully in the center of your vision. It takes a while to get used to. If you're playing the HTC Vive version, I believe they have show crosshair turned off by default, which means that you have a much more kind of unobstructed experience with no UI, which feels more realistic, like you're really in the place. But you do have to, in the Vive version, you actually have to aim your grappling hooks with controllers, with your hands, and shoot them in the direction that you want them to go, which is very, very cool. It definitely adds a lot to the game, but you do have to be very good at aiming them. And that's part of the skill you have to develop in the HTC Vive version of the game, whereas in the Rift version, you can just turn on show crosshair, and you will always hit it when you see the crosshair icon turn white. Other things you can set. You can set, you can turn off vibration if you don't like it. I like the vibration. I think it adds to the experience, especially when you get kind of the cutscenes where things happen and it causes the controller to vibrate. Video anti-aliasing, I recommend you just turn this up as high as your video card can manage. It definitely helps a lot. If I disable this, you'll be able to see the difference it makes. Especially for me, I see a lot more jaggies around the edge of objects now. It's not totally obvious because the distortion eliminates some of the jagginess, but it's definitely doesn't look as nice without multi-sampling. But if you have a weaker graphics card, you might just have to disable this. And it's not the end of the world, it still is quite playable. Likewise, shadows. If you turn off shadows, you can see all the shadows are gone now. It definitely makes the world look less realistic and less 3D. So I can play around in this a little bit. So it's obviously cheaper to render. You can still see shadows on the trees because that's part of the texture. It's baked in. But the trees just have no shadows on the terrain. And again, this does not ruin the game. You can still play it like this, but I find it looks more realistic and more engrossing when you have the shadows on. Audio. You can adjust the volume. If you're not a fan of the music for whatever, I think the music in this game is great, so I would never turn it off unless, like, for some reason I really wanted to, like, just focus on the action. Like, if I wanted to focus on the sound effects so I could get the best possible time or whatever, I might turn down the music. But I think it's a great part of the experience, and if you're playing it casually, I would really leave that turned up. Advanced rope is a very interesting one. So show total game time and show total level time, I recommend you leave these off because they just don't look very good in VR. So you can see my total game time is now on the screen. And to you guys it looks fine because it's just up in the corner. But to me it's like really awkward because I just see like something in the corner of my eye and I can't turn my head to look at it. It's glued to my face. This is an example of the gluing UI to your face paradigm that's very bad for VR. That's totally normal for regular monitor-based games. And I think they just didn't really have time to VRify this aspect of the game, and that's fine, because you can just turn it off. If you're like speedrunning the levels, you might want to have it on regardless, so that you can kind of time your segments, figure out how well you're doing. So you could do always on, challenge maps only. I think challenge maps only is the default because the challenge maps are speedrun maps specific. They're designed for it. But I like to have it off entirely. And finally, advanced rope. Let's talk about advanced rope. Advanced rope is interesting. So normally when you use your rope, I'd mentioned how it automatically pulls you towards your target. So if I rope this tree, it would pull me up. But when I use advanced rope, it does not pull me up automatically. Instead, I have to use a button. Not that button. I need to remember how the advanced rope controls work. I believe I use the other shoulder button. So the Xbox One gamepad has 2 sets of shoulder buttons. I use one to grab and the other one to pull. And this can be useful in cases where you really need to swing but not pull yourself. It is pretty rare though that like you might get used to this UI and it gives you fine control that you might need if you're a serious speedrunner, since you can control when you pull and when you don't pull. So I can do things like this. So that was without pulling. And without pulling I can keep the length of my rope the same, and that lets me do swinging more effectively. So it's if you can get used to it, it's definitely a more powerful control method, but it's also more difficult to use and more difficult to learn. So, and you can get through the whole game without it. I've done that. So I'm going to leave it off for this playthrough, but advanced rope is definitely, if you want to get serious speedrunning this game, is something to consider. Anyway, that's all for today. I will be playing, I'm actually recording all 9 parts of this all at once, so I'm going to release them over 9 days, and or possibly a little bit longer if I intersperse it with other videos, but I'm going to release all 9 videos of all 9 crystals, and I am going to complete the whole game. So let me know your thoughts on this series and on this game. Let me know if you've played it, any advice or special experiences you had in this game. And that is all for today. Everybody have a great every day.